Kansas State made the decision on Sunday to part ways with Jerome Tang after about 4 seasons as head coach. Tang made major headlines in his first season with the Wildcats, taking Kansas State all the way to the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament in 2023, where Kansas State lost to Florida Atlantic. The second year for Kansas State did not end in the NCAA tournament. As I said on last week's show, I firmly believe that year 2 for Jerome Tang would have ended in the NCAA tournament if Kansas State did not lose Naquan Tomlin in the middle of the season. And then last year, Kansas State made a big haul in the transfer portal, headlined by Coleman Hawkins. That didn't lead to the NCAA tournament either. There was a major roster turnover again this year. Kansas State did pick up P.J. Haggerty, an All-American guard in the transfer portal. But the Wildcats did not obviously have the type of season that many people envision. Now, this is a different time in college athletics. There is a lot of money invested at the power conference level, not just on a coaching staff, not just on a head coach, but the resources now that people are putting into their rosters is serious, serious money. The best players in college basketball are making millions of dollars. The great role players in college basketball are making millions of dollars, but just not as much as the best players in college basketball. And other players are making hundreds of thousands of dollars. I grew up the son of 2 teachers. There are players right now in college basketball that are marginal players who are making significantly more money than I ever saw either one of my parents make. I'm talking about $700,000, $800,000 a year for guys who are their 9th, 10th men. It is unfound right now. It is unfathomable what is going on with these salaries in college basketball. But with that comes obviously great responsibility and more pressure if you are a head coach. And if you are a head coach in this climate, and if you are constantly being responsible to win and win at the highest levels of college basketball, you are dealing right now with this dynamic. You could have a really, really good player and he could transfer. You could have a player who doesn't play at all and he could transfer. And with that said, it is your responsibility to put together a team on an annual basis that has a chance to go to the NCAA tournament and advance. Now, over the last 2 years, that wasn't obviously the formula and what was reflected at Kansas State. And probably the worst moment during these last 2 years was last week when Cincinnati, a team that's not near the NCAA tournament, went to Bramlage Coliseum and beat Kansas State by 29 points. If Kansas State wanted to part ways with Jerome Tang because of the way that things transpired the last 2 years, I understand it. But when the school came out and said that they were going to fire him for cause because of comments that were made at a press conference last week when he was obviously visibly disappointed, is something I just don't understand. But this right now is the new playbook. This is the playbook when coaches have an exorbitant amount of money left on their contract. This is the playbook that many schools will try and implement. We saw it at UConn with Kevin Ollie. We saw it at St. John's with Mike Anderson, and it's real simple. Jerome Tang has over $18.5 million on his buyout from Kansas State. Obviously, Kansas State is going to have to find money to continue funding its basketball program after this season, hire a new head coach, and potentially pay a buyout for a sitting head coach in addition to that. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to save money on the buyout for the coach who they are parting ways with. And this is how the formula works, and I've seen it several times at this level. If somebody's owed $10 million, the school says, well, we're going to fire you for cause, so you're going to get nothing. And then the person who's being fired might say, well, wait, I can't get nothing. And I say, okay, how's $3 million sound? And if you don't like it, we're going to go to court, and we're going to talk to you in 14 months. And between now and then, all you're going to do is rack up bills with a legal counsel. That's all that's going to happen. But Jerome Tang, I have known a long time. Jerome Tang is somebody I have known for close to 15 years, way back to when he was an assistant coach at Baylor. I'm really, really fond of him as a person. I was thrilled when he got the opportunity to lead a Big 12 program because I knew him when he was somebody who was literally trying to make a name for himself in this profession. If you want to part ways with him as a basketball coach because of what happened the last 2 years, Kansas State has every right to make that decision. But when you start trying to muddy the waters because of a buyout and you want to fire him with cause and try to find something out of thin air, that is a pattern that is becoming all too common in college basketball. And I'll put a bow on this before I get to the other disappointing headline from Sunday. I'll put a bow on this. One thing that I have seen in all my years covering college basketball, and one thing I think that definitely translates into the NIL era from the era that was pre-NIL. Once you lose momentum as a program, it is very difficult to get it back in college basketball. Kansas State had great momentum in 22-23. 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, Elite Eight appearance at Madison Square Garden, won a game in the Sweet 16 against Tom Izzo and Michigan State. The next year, Kansas State had an NCAA tournament team. It lost Naquan Tomlin. That team never got to the tournament. It then turned over its roster, missed the NCAA tournament, turned over its roster again, and now in mid-February, the Wildcats are looking for another head coach. In the press conference, Gene Taylor, the AD on Sunday night, said he's going to start by looking for somebody with head coaching experience. Everybody knows that these coaching searches over the next month and a half are going to revolve around a handful of mid-major coaches at the non-power conference level. St. Louis's Josh Schertz is going to be at the top of every list. Utah State's Jarrett Calhoun's going to be at the top of every list. You could also make an argument for George Mason's Tony Skinn. And don't forget about New Mexico's Eric Olin. But I'll say this. The way things are trending right now, we've got a long way to go before every job is going to be vacant on the coaching carousel. I am not seeing as many quality mid-major candidates as I did 10, 15 years ago, and I'm going to tell you why. We are seeing such a separation right now between the power conferences and the non-power conferences that it is becoming more difficult for mid-major coaches to retain personnel and be in a situation where they can put together a quality mid-major team. One storyline I think we should all keep an eye out for. Will there be more power conference jobs open than there are quality candidates for? We've seen a lot of schools in the last couple of years hire, because of the way things are going with the NIL model, hire people with professional experience. Luke Laux at Florida State, Alex Jensen at Utah. Wouldn't shock me if we see more of that in this coaching cycle.